Domino's trying to sell pizza in Italy is peak stupidity. The friendliness doesn't just feel fake, it is fake. As a German, leave me alone when shopping. I just want to get it done. If I have a question, I'll ask. This is 100% true. I live in Germany. I'm not German, but I do live in Germany, so I agree. This is why I'm fascinated with this video. I really want to check it out because US versus Europe is something I always like to check. Coming from Europe myself, having my European opinion, I would like to see what the US have to say. So what you are telling me is that one of the major reasons American companies fail in Europe is because they are built to be fundamentally unethical and Europe has regulations against it? Go figure.
On the 30th of December 1997, America's largest grocery chain, and at the time the world's largest company, Walmart, opened its first store in Germany. At the grand unveiling, the company spokesperson announced this as the first step to taking the continent. But just 9 years later, after expanding to 85 stores across Germany, Walmart seized all its European operations, reporting losses of more than $1 billion. This was just one example of countless massive American companies who have tried to conquer Europe and failed.
I actually saw do you remember back in the day where people were doing like Target challenge, like being in Target for 24 hours? And I was thinking, why do we not have a Target in Germany? Well, I guess now we know.
Staples tried in 1998, Home Depot in 2001, and even Best Buy in 2010. All of them failed. So what was it that they were doing wrong? After all, they came from the land of capitalism, had large budgets, and enough experience to crush the competition.
Think, right?
Yet almost 9 times out of 10, they failed.
A retail giant is closing stores. Walmart plans to shut down 269 stores. Best Buy is laying off thousands of workers, even though sales there are soaring.
In 2023, European customers spent more than $9 trillion, making the EU the second largest consumer market in the world, behind only the United States. To most people, this didn't really come as a surprise. After all, just like the US, multiple European countries rank among the wealthiest and most developed on the planet. And with similar populations and similar sized economies, you'd be forgiven for thinking Europe and America basically run the same ways. But in many ways, the two blocks couldn't be further apart. In 2023, about 700 million people lived in Europe, but only about 10% of them spoke English as their official language. Home to over 40 different languages, Europe is vastly different from the US. While something like language may seem trivial, this difference is just one of the many symptoms of something deeper. Something that explains why American companies struggle in Europe. In the 1960s, Dutch psychologist Geert Hofstede set out to answer a simple question. Why do people from different countries behave so differently? And by 1980, that work became known as Hofstede's Cultural Dimensions, a framework for understanding how culture shapes behavior, broken down into 6 key dimensions. One of these dimensions, uncertainty avoidance, measures how comfortable a society is with unpredictability. And this is where things start to go wrong for American
We hate it.
You see, in the US, uncertainty avoidance gets a score of about 46. This means Americans are generally more relaxed about rules.
Americans should know this already. You know that Germans are all about rules, right? Like, it's not something that you, oh, really? They're different? Like, rules are meant to be followed strictly here, you guys. Honestly, I feel like one of the reasons why, at least in Germany, when it comes to the pandemic, the corona pandemic, when it happened, I feel like the rules kept a lot of people alive and sane. People were following rules. They were standing in lines. They were separated like 2-3 meters between, and everybody respected those. I loved it. And then I visited Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is in Europe, but not in the European Union. And then I saw chaos. Literally chaos. I was thinking, if I'm gonna get corona, this is the country I'm gonna get it. Thankfully I didn't, not yet at least.
With experimentation and figuring things out as they go. American companies also tend to operate the same way. They test things, pivot quickly, and then adapt on the fly. Some European countries like the UK also fall into this category, but move a bit to the east and that picture changes fast, with countries like Germany scoring as high as 65. Meaning they prefer things spelled out, standardized and formal. So when American companies show up with their "we'll figure it out as we go" approach, German consumers often find this disturbing. In 1997,
Everything.
Walmart opened its first store in Germany. And just like its US locations, all employees were given the company handbook. It contained over 100 different rules. But in the culture section, there was one rule that took priority over everything else.
Which one?
Whenever a customer comes within 10 feet of you, you must look them in the eye, greet them, and ask them how you can help them.
Ooh, no, not in Germany. And this is something I really love about Germany. I hate this rule. When I go shopping, leave me alone. If I need something, I will approach you. I will ask if I am ready. You asking me doesn't mean, oh yeah, true. Like I did need help. Now that you are asking me, how about you help me? Like, no, just leave me alone. I feel like so bad. And I have such an anxiety. If you come and ask me, I'm going to leave as fast as possible. I'm not feeling comfortable being here. So this is a clash of culture. Definitely a clash of culture. This is completely normal in Arab countries. Like I'm half Arab myself and I was raised there majority of my life. And I know how it is there. Like, welcome, come in. And they are so hospitable to you. And this is completely normal there. Even German tourists know that it is completely normal and they don't feel really bad about it or anxious. But if you do that in Germany, in their homeland, in their home space, the safe space they have created, I don't think it works.
To Americans, this was considered good customer service. But to Germans, with their high uncertainty avoidance scores, shopping at Walmart was a disaster. The friendliness felt fake, the small talk intrusive, and constant smiling unprofessional. Customers thought, why
Smiling
is
is
the stranger
unprofessional.
trying to talk to me? And in some cases, this friendliness was even misinterpreted as sexual advances.
My God, I hate this. I hope smiles were normal. That's why waiters here don't even care. They don't even smile at you. Like, what do you want? What do you need? Oh, they don't care. Oh my
Instead
God.
of building trust, it created discomfort. And finally, after 9 years of poor sales, Walmart had to pull out of Germany. Another one of Hofstede's dimensions, long-term orientation, measures how societies balance tradition with change. Here, the US scores relatively low, which means Americans would generally replace old methods of doing things for newer, more efficient ones, something American companies have always been used to. Countries like the UK and Germany, however, which score much higher, tend to value long-standing traditions, established norms, and gradual change. In other words, they don't switch to new ways of doing things just because they're more efficient. And that brings us to Best Buy. In 2010, the American retail giant tried bringing big box stores to the UK. Their pitch? Bulk shopping was way more efficient. In the UK, however, shopping in small quantities had always been the norm, and with their tendency to stick with things like they already used to, Best Buy felt unnecessary. And after years of barely any business, Best Buy had no choice but to pack up and leave.
Ooh, but
Time
we
and
have
time
Media
again,
Market, which
American
is completely
companies have
similar.
struggled in Europe, not because their business models are bad, but because they kept trying to sell the American way of doing things to people who don't really care for it. It simply didn't work. But that didn't mean American success in Europe was entirely impossible. Once companies accepted that European consumer culture was fundamentally different, they stopped trying to copy and paste the American model and started building Europe-specific playbooks instead, all in an effort to navigate those differences and cash in on the continent's vast consumer market. But as they quickly discovered, this was going to be easier said than done, because unlike what they were used to, Europe wasn't just another market. It was a collection of different values, cultures, and people that had just happened to share the same continent.
By the way, did you not know that Europe is a continent and not a country? There's multiple countries with different cultures, different things that they can start with. So I genuinely don't understand how people can say Europe is one and these are Europeans and this is how Europeans behave and this is what we need to do with European market or whatever. No, each country has its own rules. So for you to adjust and shift, you would have to look individually at each country and then see from there where you go. So it is a lot of work.
In 1985, Domino's Pizza opened its first store in Europe, located in Bedfordshire, England. Unlike its US locations, which
England,
were mostly large restaurants,
in Germany
things
we
in the
have
UK
it.
were completely different. Brits didn't
It
eat out
works.
nearly twice as much as Americans did. So instead of opening large suburban restaurants,
Yeah, eating out in Europe is expensive. Only fast food works. But other than that, everything else expensive. That's why, for example, in Germany, kebab is so nice and a lot of people like kebab because it was street food that is a bit better quality than fast food. And it was cheaper. Like you would be able back in the day to get kebab for 5 euros, you know, and that's like way cheaper than making yourself some meals. So now times shifted. Now it's like 7-8 euros per kebab.
Domino's focused on small stores in student-packed areas that prioritized delivery over dining. And it worked. By 1999, they'd expanded to over 200 stores, and in less than a decade, that number had more than doubled. From Domino's perspective, the lesson was clear. They'd found a winning model. And for an American company, that meant one thing: scale it. You see, for decades, these companies have been trained to replicate whatever works, and it all comes down to how the US is structured. With shared language, media, and consumer expectations, the US is more or less a unified market, so a strategy that works in one part of the country will almost always work everywhere else. This is why Walmart can roll out identical stores nationwide, why McDonald's sells the same menu in every state, and why Coca-Cola can use the same marketing campaign from California to Virginia. So when Domino's executives saw their delivery-first strategy take off in the UK, expanding it across Europe didn't feel risky, but instead like the next logical step. By 2012, they'd expanded to Germany, Switzerland, and Liechtenstein. And for a moment,
I think that works.
seemed like they'd cracked the code.
Yeah,
Up until
I've seen a lot of Domino's.
Domino's Pizza is to close down all its stores in Italy. Shut down all of its locations.
Italy. Okay, like you can't sell pizza in Italy. Like you read the comments, you guys. What? Like, it's not even about Domino's. I think, like as they said, like it's a proud nation thing. They were so happy to shut it down. Like they were protesting. Even if they loved the Domino pizza, nobody had to say it. Like nobody was able to even say it. Like that would be shameful. So I think it's a proud nation thing to say like, nah, we ain't doing that. It's like America opening bakeries in Germany and like being proud about the American bread. What is American bread compared to German bread? You can even question it, all right? I learned that I am not allowed to say anything about German bread, and German bread is the best. And yes, each and every single one of them is different and unique, and we have a lot to talk about it when it comes to bread.
Domino's has reportedly closed its last branch
After it failed to win over Italians with its mass-produced pizzas.
In 2015, Domino's entered Italy, the birthplace of pizza, with its European playbook, making pizzas as fast as possible and delivering it to people's doorsteps. But in Italy, pizza wasn't just another meal, it was their culture, something that had been crafted with care and eaten straight out of an oven.
Right, it's like
Domino's,
making
of course,
cevapi
ignored
in
this.
Bosnia by
After
Americans.
all, its European strategy was working in other parts of the continent, so why wouldn't it work here? Just 7 years later,
Why?
the company collapsed, filed for bankruptcy, and shut down all 29 locations across the country, a fraction of the nearly 800 it had once projected. This One Europe strategy isn't exactly unique to Domino's either. In the 1980s, Coors, the American beer company, successfully expanded to the UK with its Turn It Loose advertising campaign. British
Never heard of
consumers
it.
loved it, so they
But I don't
scaled the
drink beer.
campaign to Spain. But when it launched, Turn It Loose was immediately interpreted as a common Spanish expression meaning suffering from diarrhea. And just like that, the brand image was destroyed. Time and time again, American companies have failed in Europe because they underestimate the time, money, and
Turn it
commitment
loose.
required to succeed there. They treat Europe like the US, a collection of similar
Perfect.
markets with minor variations. But in reality, Europe is far too diverse for this logic to work. In other words, a product that sells well, or a marketing campaign that resonates in one European country, won't necessarily work in another, even if they share a border. Many American companies have struggled to adapt to this, and even when they recognize the problem, they often choose to ignore it, because building country-specific strategies is expensive, slow, and difficult to scale. But Europe has
And money
responded to
consuming.
this resistance with indifference. As American companies try to force their methods into European markets, Europe pushes back. And in 2024 alone, that pushback cost American companies more than $7 billion. American companies dominate globally, but fail in Europe, and it's not just because of cultural misunderstandings or bad strategies. It's that their entire business models are built around a version of capitalism that just doesn't exist there. In the US, capitalism has always been straightforward. For the most part, government stays out the way, creating an environment where companies can take more risks, expand more aggressively, and then take the most amount of profit possible, even though this sometimes means engaging in child labour. In Europe, however,
That's so unethical from America. No, we're above that. We should be some conscious about these things, you guys. Like pressure companies into not doing stuff like that. We have options. Don't go for the companies that does indulge in child labor. I mean, this is crazy. I hate
But
this.
things are a little bit different. Capitalism does still exist, but the government steps in to balance growth against other priorities like worker protections, consumer rights, fair competition, and environmental standards. And even though the amount of regulation in Europe has recently been brought under scrutiny, for American companies this causes massive issues. In 1997, when Walmart entered Germany, it did the same thing that had made it successful in the US. It leveraged its relationship with manufacturers, got massive bulk discounts, and offered customers the lowest prices on the market. In less than a month, it received an official letter from the German government: raise prices or face penalties. You see, instead of trying to compete, German retailers simply reported Walmart to the authorities for selling products below cost. Walmart executives who built
They can't even sell cheap. Holy, because they know if they are selling cheap, they are cutting corners. There is somewhere along the line that they are doing something illegal in order to be able to sell something so cheap and still make profit. And that's why Germans don't allow that. They don't want to deal with that because the value of the price has something to do with the fact that they are doing everything by regulation and paying their taxes in time. Because God forbid you didn't.
their entire business on being able to offer the lowest prices were left confused. To them, this was just competition, but in Germany, it was a violation of fair competition laws. And complying didn't mean tweaking a few policies. It meant stripping away the very thing that made Walmart, its competitive pricing. After 9 years of struggling, it sold off all its stores, exiting with nearly $1 billion in losses. For decades, American companies have built their entire business models without strict regulations, controlling
I have a
what they
smile
can
on my
and
face.
can't do.
Like I'm happy for
This
it.
has led to a situation whereby when said regulations are introduced, their entire business model falls apart. With labour laws that protect employees, Amazon can't cycle through workers to maintain a consistently motivated workforce like it does in the US. And with privacy laws that protect people's data, Meta can't bombard Europeans with targeted ads, its main revenue source. And with competition laws that protect smaller businesses, Walmart can't operate efficiently in Europe. And it's not just that these regulations exist, it's that they're actually enforced, something American companies are all but used to. In 2023 alone, Meta was fined over $1 billion for violating privacy laws, Apple $500 million for anti-competitive practices, and Intel over $400 million for abusing its market position.
So I guess Europeans are not fine with sharing their data while Americans don't even care about their privacy. Like, Monica, do something about it.
In fact, Alphabet, Google's parent company, has been fined so many times by the EU that it now has a dedicated section for these fines in the balance sheet. In the US, however,
Sheesh.
companies barely get punished for things like this. No fines, no breakups, no consequences. Where
I think Americans are paying attention and protesting about the wrong things in the country. As a first world country, I think you deserve better. And you should be focusing about these type of things instead of like going on these random protests that do nothing.
American capitalism rewards whoever can grow the fastest, European capitalism balances growth with social welfare. And while this means European companies are often less dominant than their American counterparts, that's always been the plan. It's about confronting the fact that their entire business model, the strategies, the tactics, and the competitive
all about
advantages that made
quality.
them successful was designed for a version of capitalism that simply doesn't exist in Europe. And adapting would require becoming a fundamentally different company, which for most of them just isn't working. For decades, American companies have thrived on a simple formula, finding out what works and scaling it no matter the cost. But in Europe, things have always
Turn it
operated
loose.
on a different logic, one where cultural nuances matter, where stability is valued over disruption, and where regulations exist
I
not
hate
to slow down
organic stuff,
businesses,
I'm sorry.
but to protect the people
So
those
expensive
businesses
for
serve.
nothing.
So for American companies to succeed in Europe, they must be willing to put in the work, because at the end of the day, Europe isn't a single market waiting to be conquered. It's a dozen different markets, each with its own language, culture, and way of doing business.
Yeah,
And until
different
American
cultures.
companies truly accept that, they'll keep making the same billion-dollar mistakes for years to come.
Yeah, definitely. If you're like, you don't open in Europe, you don't open your branches in Europe. What you do is open your branches in separate countries in the European continent or at the European continent. So I don't think it is doomed. I would really love to see some companies open here, especially like fast food chains and whatnot. Like, I've never tried Taco Bell in my life, Popeye. I've never tried Wendy's. Like, even Wendy's didn't open just because the name Wendy's is already taken by some other European company or whatever, and they couldn't like afford or didn't want to like buy the name from them. I guess that's what I read like 5 years ago. So these type of things, like, I probably would go to America to test it all, because I feel like, or try all of these things that I would like to try, because I love food, as you can see. But yeah, I think when it comes to that, I wish to see more companies open in Europe, but also, as I said, like, respectful towards the cultures and the regulations. Like, it's all different, and if you're now willing to pay attention to these things, you are now willing to make it in Europe. But prices are so expensive here, and now I also get it a bit more after this video, because they are really focusing on quality and not quantity or the lower prices to sell. While some people do shop at Kick, others decide not to because of these bad things. Like, it is bad quality, it is cheaper. Some people can only afford that, but also I don't think it's the way that Europe is going to succeed, or American companies are going to succeed in Europe by opening another Kick. Like, no. You have to go for quality. But that is it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe for more, and see you in the next one. Also, check out my Patreon for more content. There's a lot of videos that I react to that are edited or censored or cut out here on YouTube because of YouTube regulations. So I upload the unedited versions and uncut versions on my Patreon, patreon.com/supportbunny, and all of that you can unlock, all the videos you can unlock that I upload from my YouTube channel here that are uncut to my Patreon for $1. I hope you understood what I said. That was a really weird sentence. But yeah, have a wonderful day and see you next time. Bye.